All right, guys, I can see a lot of you who have tuned in. We are a bit late. We were facing some technical difficulties, but we are through. And I am thrilled to have these two people that you can see in front of you, probably in the screen. These two people are going to help you a lot with respect to the competition that you guys are probably taking part in and to know more about the pharma world is as well. The thumbnail probably that you have seen for this particular webinar says that does it worth joining pharma industry? And I'm going to ask the same question to the speakers that I have today. Vasu, Saurav, thank you very much for joining us in. And I hope that this session is going to be a cracking one, an information-filled one. I'm sorry, and it's going to be something where they can take back learnings to work on their cases. Thank you once again for joining us today. And before we start, quick introductions from you guys, both of you, whoever wants to go first. Saurav, can we start with you?
Yeah, yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, loud and
Yeah,
clear.
so I'm Shourov Mukherjee. I've been with GSK now for a little more than 1 year. I've been in pharma for the last since 2016, so it's been almost 7 years. And before that, I have worked 12 years with Coca-Cola, 2 years with Pepsi, and 4.5 years with ITC, and also 3 years with Monsanto. So, if you have any questions about industries, I'll be more than happy to help.
Great. We look forward to that, Saurabh. And Vasu, what about you?
Hi everyone, good evening, and it's so exciting to have this interaction with you all. So I am Vasudevan. I'm the HR business partner for the vaccines business in GSK. It's been a little over 2 years for me in the pharma industry, and started it with GSK. Prior to this, I worked majorly in the auto sector in Ashok Leyland and Mahindra, and I've also had a brief stint in the media industry with Star Sports. So looking forward and excited for this conversation.
Great, lovely. Vasu, let's just dive in, and I'm going to start the conversation with you. Let's just jump straight to the question that we had. Okay, we promised our audience to tell them whether it's worth joining the pharma industry or not. What is your take on it? And what are some of the metrics that ensure you that people taking the pharma route will have a promising career from it?
Yeah, so thanks, Purnanshu. So, see, every industry has its own set of learning curves and learning experiences, right? Which is what makes all of us as professionals in the corporate world. But what differentiates pharma, I would say, a big factor, right? All of us in B schools, we are taught various topics, various theories, and but the interesting challenge with the pharma industry is that it's a very highly regulated industry, right? Both from a product point of view, from marketing point of view, everything, all the aspect about this is because we touch the lives of people, right, in a positive way. The industry is very regulated. There are a lot of do's and don'ts that needs to be very strictly followed, right? Because the people who sort of trust in us and prescribe our brands, which are our doctors, sort of do it because of the legacy that sort of we have set in. So the challenge that all of you will have is all the concepts that you have learned, all that you have gathered. How do you apply all of those in this kind of a setup, right? In any other industry, typically you are open to experiment, open to innovate, open to try something. Something will work, something will not. Similar is the case with pharma, but in a regulated environment, in an environment where there are some boundaries that are defined. So that will help. That will sort of push you to think beyond what is obvious, beyond what everybody else can see. So that is one learning which no other industry can provide to you, and which is why I feel pharma is a very exciting space to be. And on top of it all, ultimately we do touch or positively impact the lives of billions of people around the world. We as the industry does that, and especially with the advent of COVID, people would have seen the importance of this sector, the healthcare sector in general. So I think that's one really exciting part to look forward to, to join a pharma industry.
Yeah, definitely. Saurav, you mentioned in the beginning of the conversation that you have had a tremendous amount of experience with you, and you have this experience when it comes to the FMCG world as well. You've worked with Coca-Cola for 10 long years, if I'm not wrong, probably more. And what was that time when you decided that you have to make that switch from FMCG to pharma? Uh, were you sure of this choice, and were you making this choice depending on the time that it was and the kind of shift that was happening, or was it like a personal choice that you had in mind at that
So look, it's been 27 years post my MBA.
time?
So, you cannot, possibly have a 27-year career plan,
Yeah. Mm,
right? So sometimes, you actually, it's your basic. So I would describe myself as a person who gets bored with, what is, let's use the word, like if it is a predictable path,
right.
then sometimes those roles have not excited me, those career paths haven't excited me. But, to each their own.
Yeah.
So I began my career by selling cigarettes
Mm,
for ITC for 4.5 years. I used to be brand manager of India Kings, right?
mm,
And after that, I joined pharma industry some whatever 15 years later, and as the uh, cluster head for the respiratory business in Cipla. So
wow.
the same lungs I affected in 1995, I started fixing them in 2013, right,
Right.
2016. So if you so I think it's actually today there are it was I was headhunted into pharma,
Mm,
right? And what is happening in pharma today over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, that increasingly earlier there were two stages of pharma.
yeah.
One was where scientific R&D, if you had a great pipeline of products, which were
Mm,
typically called blockbusters. So if you have a product which is so unique, which has got a magic power in itself, the product sells for itself.
yeah.
So the role of marketing, the role of sales and distribution was always limited.
Mm,
Then comes those products also become off patent.
yeah.
When others now can sell the same. Now you will find that now you have suddenly got 20, 30, 50, 100 people trying to sell the same molecule, just giving it different brand names.
Right.
If you can imagine if there was another product exactly the same formulation as Coca-Cola and just called by some other name,
Mm,
and both of them have to find shelf space, both of them have to reach the homes of the consumer.
yeah.
So in the world of pharma, as long as you have a patent, you have product differentiation.
Right.
After that, once there's no product differentiation, comes in the competition. So what has happened in pharma, the R&D pipeline has been sort of drying up over the last 10 years,
Mm,
right? There are not that every year you don't have a new blockbuster. So they've realized that one of the capabilities that is required in pharma is how do you now look at reach? How do you look at distribution? How do you look at marketing when there is a competitive environment which is almost similar to every other industry?
right.
And that's why, as an industry, pharma now has been increasingly seeking out professionals who have worked in FMCG, in financial sectors, and they have the agility to try and actually now move to a new domain. So that's how I moved in, and we'll get a chance to talk about it hopefully later. I'd
Right.
like to share that there can't be a better experience than this.
So a very interesting thing that you mentioned, that you have had a 20 plus years of experience, 27 years, if I'm not wrong, of
Right.
experience, and you don't chart out this particular uh, span when you are starting, right? And right now, a lot of uh, these notions about how long should I be in a job, which are the sectors that I should choose, uh, which are the areas that I'm comfortable in, has changed when we're talking about students of today, right, or the business graduates of today. So what do you think is the current perception of these students when it comes to the pharma careers? Now, I'm sure that you also go on campuses and meet these students. What do you think they think about the pharma world right now, and what the reality is?
So look, I think it all depends. Again, there is, you have now categories of B schools. I don't think the story has changed in 3 decades.
Mm,
You still have consulting, banks, and it's just, I think that software has sort of nudged in, but again, in a consulting form, and then you will have the FMCGs, and so the story really net doesn't change,
mm,
right? Pharma still, I don't think, has a place there in, I would say, the tier 1 B schools. But that's because there are so many other companies also going there across industries, right?
Right.
I do feel this is, but however, if you see today on LinkedIn, you won't be surprised to see several pharma CEOs or CXOs who are ex McKinsey, ex Bain Consulting, ex Accenture. So they are coming through they're entering pharma through the consulting route at
Right.
subsequently at some stage.
Hmm.
So when you enter consulting as a career, you will willy-nilly, some people, there will be this is the category which is now working a lot on consulting. It's I would say, consulting favorite, right? So
Yeah.
healthcare, pharma, and healthcare, it sort of merges. So this is a big industry which is going to transform. It is going to transform in a manner which we have no idea about. And how do you can imagine that, if you look at the number of healthcare professionals, you look at the number of pharmacies, you look at the number of stockists, everything is 1/10 or 1/100th of what is FMCG scale
Right.
or even financial product scale. So you can imagine the kind of disruption that's going to happen. In which shape or form, I don't know, but definitely, today it's only probably 15% of the country's population in India at least has
Hmm.
got an access to the quality healthcare. So
Right.
it's going to dramatically change. I believe it's going to be the industry of the future, and that's where the majority. If you think of disposable income, if typically households in the problem in India has been the least amount has been spent on healthcare in terms of a family's expense, I think in the future that is going to be increasingly a significant portion of the spend.
Right.
And that's so there is going to be a lot of opportunities in this
Great.
space.
Also, keeping this in mind, I have a question for you. In your opinion, because now probably you are seeing it up close, because your sector has changed and you are in pharma right now. What does the pharma career look like in India right now? And is it better than the Western counterparts? And what are some of the aspects that we can learn from them, in your opinion?
Sure.
Okay, so look. Oh, sorry, Vasu, go ahead.
Yeah,
This is
sure.
your domain.
No, you can start and then I'll probably add.
No, I'll just make one limited point. Is you
Sure.
see again in pharma more than or as much as others, there's the MNC and there is the Indian companies,
Mm.
right? So there is Indian. Now these are not Indian multinational; they are all Indian multinationals.
Yeah.
So they have careers in Cipla. A lot of young people are working in offices all over Europe and the US. Likewise, it's in Dr. Reddy's, etc. So today, global careers are a strong possibility as far as pharma is concerned.
Mm.
That's number one. And Indian companies or multinationals are looking at talent from within to export. So I think the global footprint in careers is very high. And second, you have the normal. The route is more around marketing and sales and
Right.
supply chain. These are the three areas where I see, apart from finance, of course, which is limited, but these are the three areas where I see careers really progressing.
So,
Yeah,
Bharat,
Absolutely.
Vasu.
got
So
to add?
yeah, thank you, Shourov. I think you put it exactly well. So, like you mentioned, in terms of career path, it's going to be sales, marketing, or supply chain because of the business model, and obviously the core product creation is more to do with R&D, which has a different kind of a background that's required, right? Like you mentioned, the global is one big opportunity that's opening up. Why? See, the way India operates, the pharma industry is like many people take medication in their hands, right? They try different methods, like something that their parents would have told or at home. Uh, when you understand and learn how to play in this market, how to create more awareness, how to increase penetration, how to increase the access to medicines, right? Like you mentioned, 15-20% of India is probably who have the knowledge, awareness, and access to the medicine. When you're
Right.
able to crack a market like this, expand it, one, the learnings are huge. Two, a learning like this can help boost your career big time when you look at roles outside of India.
Mm.
Because in many advanced markets, right, things are very sort of systemized, things are very organized. Like typically, a person goes to a doctor gives a prescription only based on that medicines are given,
Yeah.
right? But India works slightly differently. So working in this sort of not very structured environment, because of how the things work here, gives you a different kind of learning to help you organize it, put a structure into place, and to increase your penetration and reach. That learnings will help significantly in terms of growing your career.
Right.
Even if you continue your career in pharma, or even you look at other industries, because what you're trying to achieve, it's unlocking the potential, right? That ability to unlock potential, if you are able to pick here, which there is a huge scope for, it'll help you continue that or sort of scale it up in any industry or even in markets outside of India.
Great. And connected to that, how important do you think these kind of real life case study competitions that we have launched with you guys on our platform is? What has been your experience of the previous years, seeing these very people coming in and solving these challenges, and coming up with insights that probably you guys have not thought of, or you have probably kept at the side?
Absolutely. So I firmly believe that what is the purpose of a B school, right? I believe it's twofold. One is the exposure, right, and two is the network.
Hmm.
Obviously, education is important. Obviously, what they teach, the theory, the concepts are very important. That sort of builds your fundamentals. But then many colleges do that, and each college has like 300, 400 students, right? It's same
Yeah.
for everyone. The same professor teaches for all, is the same concept. It's mostly the same books across colleges. But what differentiates one, to become a successful, corporate executive in their career, is the exposure that they pick up while they are studying there for 2 years, and the network that they build. So a
Correct.
competition like a ECube is sort of right there, bang on, to help you build your exposure, right?
Hmm.
When you sort of participate in these, you do a little bit research about the industry. You try and understand how the business model works, right? Most cases are requiring you to think on innovation grounds to help look at from a different angle that currently people in the industry are looking at compared to that, right? So it helps you build your perspective, gives you exposure. You sort of also in this regard connect with different people, build that networking. So I think this is a very, very important aspect and an element which adds to a wholesome learning in a B school environment, which
Absolutely.
is what the differentiated value it brings in. And I think it's two-sided. Why do even companies want that? Obviously, one, to attract talent, build brand, that's there. But then, honestly, even in my previous experience where I worked with different companies, there have been few case study solutions that the students have bought which have been really impactful, and we have ended up implementing those,
Right.
right? So it is a real story, and it has happened even here with respect to the ECube. What I would suggest is to do a thorough research, understand the industry, the nuances, how it works. Being from there, from the college, from a outside, bringing in outside in perspective is easy to do that because you don't have any baggage. What are the systems? What are the approvals? What are the processes? So it's very easy to get that perspective in. So to conclude, basically, these kind of platforms provide a fantastic opportunity for students to basically do some research, understand, think out of the box, apply some of the learnings that they're getting in the college, and to do a very meaningful contribution in the competition and also to add value to themselves.
Right. A lot of the people who have joined us today in the webinar, they probably want to know more about the competition and how do they go about solving it. And I have somebody who deals with adult vaccines at GSK. I'm talking about you, Saurabh. Uh, we actually have given them the cases where we are talking about shrinks. Is this case study also written by you by any chance that you want people to solve for? Can you talk a little bit about the case?
Yeah, look, man, this is close to my heart. All
Right.
right. And so this is, yeah, you can say this is scripted by me.
Great.
So whoever does a good job here will act in the movie as well. All right. And GSK will be the producer.
Right.
Right. Look, guys, the problem is it's a unique problem. There are three areas of the problem.
Hmm.
First is, let's look at people, think about only people above the age of 50. In fact, think of people above the age of 60, right? So you are thinking about possibly your parents and definitely your grandparents,
Right.
right? Now, when you're looking at that, now think about what percentage of them actually look at once you're above 50, your immunity of your body goes down with every passing year.
Hmm.
After 60, it's even worse, right? And what happens is every year above 60 or 70, your immunity is approaching that of infancy
Right.
when you were born.
Yeah.
Now, when children are born, and you all won't know about it, you know, is that, their immunity is so fragile that vaccines have saved them all these for the last several decades, right? So vaccines are a must for infants. However, when we are on the other side of 70 or 60, we don't treat our immunity as significantly, as importantly as when it was as kids. So one is in India, and I'm talking India, vaccination mindset just does not exist.
Yeah.
So that's the first puzzle we have to solve. All right. That's very important. COVID was an aberration. Don't think of COVID as COVID. People took vaccine as a treatment. I
Mm.
took COVID vaccine as a passport to travel. Right.
Yeah.
But there were different reasons people had. Prevention was just one of them. Right. Not the primary driver. So, first is you have a population where less than 1% of people take vaccines to protect themselves when they are above the age of 50 or 60 years of age.
Right.
If you take a developed country like the US, that's 40%, 45%. In certain countries, in European countries, it's 80, 90%. Everybody takes it.
Mm.
Okay. So that's one part of the problem. So we have launched a vaccine which is for this fictional vaccine which you have is for a disease which everybody is at risk for.
Mm.
Okay, so it's a chickenpox virus, which chickenpox virus everybody has in their body. When your immunity goes down after a particular age, and God forbid that chickenpox virus gets reactivated, then it will travel through your nervous system and you will have unbearable pain.
Mm.
And that pain can also be somewhat suicidal. So, this is something, there's a lot of literature around that. But just to know that we are not selling a vaccine. So, a vaccine has been launched now. It's for a disease which not everybody knows.
Right.
So there are a lot of local names. People in the north, south, everybody calls it different names. Some people think it's a blessing from God because once you get it, you are going to die. So God is calling you. So we have a lot of religious stuff going around also. But the
Mm.
fact of the matter is, does everybody know about herpes zoster or the disease or shingles, the disease that this vaccine is protecting you from? The
Correct.
answer to that is no. So
Yeah.
that's the second marketing challenge, right?
Mm.
So people, not everybody knows about the disease, and not everybody knows about the disease and the severity of the disease. So that's very important that to consider.
Right.
Right. Now the third thing is, do I think I'm at risk? So I am Shourov Mukherjee. I know about lung cancer. I have seen a lot of communication ads around it. I know about the disease. I know it's very bad, but I don't think I'm at risk. So I'm doing nothing about it. Why? Because I'm not a smoker.
Yeah.
Right now, is that reason enough? So similarly, there will be everybody will have their rationalization to think,
Mm.
am I at risk?
Yeah.
So first is it's for an age group which is 50 plus, which don't look at adult vaccination as a category in itself. It is for people they have limited understanding of the disease itself. And third is they don't have enough knowledge, or do they have the inclination that they need to protect themselves? Do they feel they're at risk?
Mm.
Once you go through all of these three, comes the vaccine itself. So the vaccine is a non-live vaccine. That means it doesn't have the virus in it.
Yeah.
So therefore everybody can take it. Even if you're a cancer patient, you can safely take the vaccine. All right. But now the issue is the price of the vaccine is 11,000 rupees for one dose,
Right.
and it's a two-dose vaccine. So it's a premium vaccine. So the nearest vaccine in adult market is another vaccine which is half the price, and it's a single dose vaccine. This is a two-dose vaccine, so it's 5 times the price of the nearest vaccine otherwise in the market. Okay,
Correct.
so therefore the ECube challenge is, I know that if you are a high net worth individual, which I don't know what to put the amount as, but I
Yeah.
think
We
somebody
got a
who
few
is
questions also which said that, which what is your definition of HNI?
so an HNI to me is a person who will have at least, in my view, they must be having a salary in the range of, you know, 40 lakhs to 50 lakhs. I think 30 to 40 lakhs, not of declared income,
Yeah.
of income. right? In our country, that's the
Right.
so look, guys, you throw a stone and you find an HNI, and all of you all know what a definition. See, when you look at income tax definition, there are only 1.5 lakh people in the country who have a declared income of more than a crore, right? Come on, guys. I live in the part of Mumbai I live. I think in my building everybody is richer than me, but everybody's salary will be lower than mine. All right. So that's a different problem. But so imagine you fly when you travel, you don't take the train. You typically would be a member of clubs. You would not be thinking twice about taking a recliner seat in a PVR. You will be going to fine dining locations. And if you just take the count, you have been staying in five-star hotels. You are typically in the senior management of all corporates, right? Or you're a successful businessman. You own a car which costs more than 50 lakhs or 40 lakhs, right? Let's put 40 lakhs or 30 lakhs. If you have a car more than that, all of those. So income is a very strange parameter to put, but roughly in our estimate by Bain Consulting, there are more than 10 million people like that in just the top 10 metros,
Right.
right? So now the question is, how do I find them? How do I talk to them about a disease? I cannot talk to people so the just the last point is the only constraint is you cannot tell a person, you cannot do any marketing around the vaccine.
Correct.
That's the rule in the as per the government. You can only talk about potential. You can talk about the disease, and you can talk it's preventable through vaccine. So look at our ads. You've got the Amitabh Bachchan ads out there.
Right.
Have a
Right.
good look. Read every line carefully. Whatever is said on that line can be said anywhere in any context.
Correct.
All right. Okay, I'll stop there. The brief should not be longer than the presentation.
I was definitely coming to the Amitabh Bachchan question as well, because you mentioned about awareness, and probably that's the biggest kind of an awareness drive that we have seen Mr. Bachchan being one of the ambassadors for the polio vaccines as well. And probably it's a move that you and your team have taken as well to make sure that this vaccine also reaches people. How important do you think these kind of inclusions will be when they're working on the cases? Should they be looking into these kind of activities that has happened over time in history as well to take note or take inputs from? Is that going to help them?
So look, I think there are four areas. So there is one is when you look at above the line marketing, so which is mass media. So whether it's television, whether it's radio, whether it's essentially these are the two, right? And I would take cinema as well, right? Cinema, outdoor. I would suggest spend less time on that, all right? Because that we are already taking care of.
Right.
All right, that's not my problem. And you do realize that yes, the location of a hoarding can help you get HNI communities. The choice of programming will give you HNI, but these are all sort of derivatives. But I would say mass media, keep it out of your domain. All right. Now the second one comes to is the world of digital. Whatever I say or do, I will never know, and our agencies will never know as much as you guys know over on the call. So, really, how does one leverage digital marketing to really make sure that I'm targeting the HNI?
Right.
And remember, it's not only I'm not looking at awareness, because from awareness, that decision to go and pick up the phone and talk to a doctor or talk to a home vaccination guy and say, I want that vaccine. Why aren't you talking to me about the vaccine? Right? That's in the realm. Now, believe you me, in the last 4 months of launch, has that happened? It has happened more often than not.
Right.
So there are parents of film stars who have reached out and on their own taken the vaccine in their homes. Right. So it is something those who are aware of the disease, they are taking it. Right. So I would say look at digital, that whole space, whichever shape or form. The third space is that around the part I'm really interested in is direct marketing and consumer connect.
Yeah.
So which is I would call below the line. How do I cleverly do that is something, if y'all can give me suggestions and come up with some innovative thoughts, the
Great.
grand prize awaits y'all.
I'm not going to prod you any further on this because I fear that you might just give away the answers to them. But yeah, moving on, Vasu, let's talk about what are some of the tips that you have when you are vetting these people. I mean, it's not just about the presentation, it's not just about the solution that they come up with, it's about how they come up with it as well, right? And how particular are you guys when you are deciding that who are going to be sitting on the chairs when they come into the system and work for you guys. So let's talk about that, and let's figure out how do they get the ticket to the next round.
Yeah, so that's a very so it'll be like revealing all our mantras, but I'll try and make an attempt at it. See, well, any case study like this is launched, right? We are aware that this is basically the students from the college who have their daily routine, who have their college activities to take care of, and they're putting interest to learn and do. So it's simple. When a problem is given, there is a ask, that they're supposed to solve. So the most important thing I would say is how have they thought about solving that problem? Okay, like when I say this, there are some sub elements. One, did they understand the problem clearly? Two, what kind of inputs they have sought to sort of lay down what's the scenario in front of them. Three, what is their solution? How impactful, effective is their solution, which will help solve the problem, right? I think these are some of the major things that will differentiate one presentation from another. And I understand in B school it's sort of said and unsaid rule that a PPT has to be full. It has to be filled up with a lot of graphics, lot of image, lot of text. There has to be reference to a lot of articles and link published on the internet. Avoid all of that. That's not the point, right? It has to be presentable, readable. We'll have to understand, obviously, when we go through that, make sense of it. But what's the most important? Understanding the problem, looking at relevant information, collecting relevant data points, asking the right questions to the right people to get the facts on the clear. Three, what is their solution? How have they able to think beyond what's the obvious, right? And basically not like just googling something and putting things together, but what is their thought process in that? What's their differential thinking in that? I think this, if done well, will sort of solve our problem as well and also get them to the next round and sort of help them also win.
Great. Vasa, I was just looking through some of the questions that we have gotten on YouTube as well. It's time to take a few of them before we move on to our standard questions that we have for you. Chelsea Single is asking from Team Heisenberg, IMT Ghaziabad. Can you provide insights into GSK's latest research and development initiatives, especially in the context of new drug discovery and innovation? Is there any portal where they go to where they would find this? Anything that you can disclose right now, which will be of help for these?
So
Yeah,
look,
so
they
yes,
can go to our website and look up.
Yeah.
You will find whatever is available in the public space is all you can see. But clearly, we are looking at in the world of respiratory space. We are looking at oncology. So rare disease. So these are the places where there is a lot of work, and vaccines is a big play for the future as far as GSK is concerned.
Right. There's one question from Tushar Kanodia is asking, can you please tell us the shift in ideologies while marketing a product like cigarettes and then changing industries to product where you discourage the same? He's from Team Delosin IMT Ghaziabad. It's a personal question. I don't know, Saurav, how you deal with it. I mean, I was pretty intrigued and I found it to be very ironical. I'm sure your friends also joke around you with this particular thing, but how do you deal with it?
So look, when I was in tobacco industry in way back in 95, friends and family would say you are selling cigarettes. Don't you feel bad about it? Then I joined Coca-Cola. They said you are now selling soft drinks and you're making the next generation of kids obese and diabetic. So aren't you feeling bad about it? Then I worked in agriculture with Monsanto. They said, oh, they're doing genetic modification around the world. So agriculture is terrible. Don't you feel bad about it? And now, believe you me, when you work at Pharma, You say people tell you, oh, you guys, you all buy the doctors and you do lobbying to make sure your patents are supported by the FDA, and you are basically making guinea pigs of human beings. So look, guys, at the end of the day, if you said you join organizations. So I think at the time of 1995, ITC was day one on campus, and it
Yeah.
was a dream to work in ITC to understand sales and distribution. There is even way back in 1995 on my desktop, which had Lotus Notes database, I had the details of 1 million retailers of the country, and I could plan a launch for India Kings by outlet. I would know the name of the owner, the birthday, and everything. I have not yet worked in an organization which has that kind of data, including Coca Cola.
Hmm.
Right? So it's some things, some organization, Philip Morris today, it may be a devil in some sort of form, but there is some things which are going on and the learnings there. So again, it's never bothered me. And as a Bengali, selling cigarettes is a virtue, not a not a crime. So though I'm not a smoker, never been a smoker myself, but so again, for me, it's never been such a I think in over time people have become evolved and making more conscientious choices about everything. But again, I have enjoyed the ride.
Great, lovely. There is a question that I also had in mind that I wanted to ask, and we are all talking about artificial intelligence. And there's one question which says that how is artificial intelligence driving informative change within the pharmaceutical industry, and specifically GSK? Is there, I mean, apart from the fact that they can ask ChatGPT and GPT-4 to solve their cases, is there any help that AI is going to do with respect to their cases, or in general about the industry, can give them more information about it?
So look, I can speak for at least in India. Apart from really, so we are not. I'm not. We are not using artificial intelligence per se, but really, it's the same world of data. So this is the and what's happening around us. You have now data starting to tell HCP, even telling doctors they are becoming better at determining what is the right course of treatment than
Yeah,
even the medical practitioner.
correct.
Because, but it all depends on what was the level of accuracy or level of dependence, credibility of the data that has been fed over the years,
Mm.
right? But at the same time, so that's one area where I think there is a lot of stuff happening. I don't know, I'm not privy to what is happening in the AI space at our headquarters in London, but I'm certain that this is the future. So there are enough people thinking about it. I'm thinking about the vaccine which I've launched here in India, and if you all can tell me how AI can help, you will win the ECube prize.
Super. That's a
Yeah,
great, guys.
just
Vasu,
one
yeah,
thing to add
go
on
ahead.
to. I think you are saying they were asking that how ChatGPT can help them solve the EQ case
No,
study,
that's
right?
that's something that I added, Vasu.
Okay.
They actually wanted an answer. I said that apart from taking help from GPT, which
Okay.
is the case now, what kind of an help that they can think of?
So look, I had last week my brother-in-law was visiting, and we gave that answer to ChatGPT that give
Hmm.
me a marketing plan for Shingrix launch in India, right?
Yeah,
And what came out was not bad, but it was exactly textbook.
yeah,
So how you would typically write a case study presentation. So
absolutely.
look at the market opportunities, segment the market, look at the trends, then look at your customer, study your customer, then think about various pricing models and so on and so forth. So I don't know whether we gave the best description. I was impressed with what we got, but that wasn't the answer.
Great, lovely. A few more quick questions that I want to take. These are questions that we have received earlier. SCMHRD Pune student Divya Nalvaya from Team Elite is asking, with GSK's presence in various international markets, how does the company navigate the challenges posed by different regulations, healthcare systems, and cultural considerations in its market efforts? And I think this is something that you have to be cognizant about when you're working in different countries. with the policies that you have overall, and how do you, sort of make sure that you customize it in the countries that you are working in? Is that relevant with the case study? Do you think that is
No, it's
something?
not relevant. Look, it's not relevant really, but I will say broadly everything is relevant. But basically, I would say that GSK has a set of internal guidelines which are stricter than individual country guidelines. So
Yeah.
if there is a country in Europe which has got the strictest guidelines, then possibly entire globally GSK would be following that same guideline.
Hmm.
So we have certain internal guidelines which overrule even local guidelines in how we operate. The only other thing which we are very cognizant of, we have a global supply chain. So most of our products are imported. All vaccines are imported from Belgium. So again, it follows. So you're not, privy to, you are not having any local challenges. The only other thing which, again, is governed by global principles is pricing. So
Right.
typically you will have a pricing which is always the most efficient pricing so that it discourages cross country bad practices.
Correct. Absolutely. Ashutosh Yadav from the team Straw Hats is asking, when I told an FMS alum about my passion for operations, he told me to go either in the dairy or pharma industry. For an operations context with a special focus on the supply chains and unpredictable uh, regulatory environment, what are the emerging challenges to the pharma industry? How can I upskill to face those challenges head on? Seems more like a personal career question to me. So yeah, I mean, any one of you want to take
Look,
it?
again, I'll just jump in, Vasu, you can add, but this is the most complex. You have, I would think at any given time, you have nothing less than 40-50,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have got the main ingredient of any pharmaceutical product is the API, that active pharmaceutical, and that comes from, that's usually imported. You have also local. So how do you get the API? How do you get the manufacture? How do you get the molecule? How do you get so I think it is probably more complex than any other industry, and it really requires talent.
Right. Uh, Ashwin Kalra from Armed Visionaries is asking, shingles is seen in every one of three individuals that boils the Indian market down to nearly 80 million aged above 50 years. Can GSK leverage economies of scale to reduce the cost of the vaccine given the huge target audience?
Yeah, so look, guys, like I said, our addressable population by the math we have done with Bain is about 12 million, 10 to 12 million people,
Right.
right?
So 80 million
Uh,
is a lot.
right. So 80 million is, it's, and we are talking about, I'm not talking about 12 million people taking the vaccine.
Hmm.
Our target is at this price point, it's about 3 lakh, 4 lakh people to take the vaccine over the course of the next 2 years. 2 to 3 years. So we're
Right.
looking at 300 to 400,000 people over the next 3 years to take the vaccine. That's sort of the kind of, and like I said, everything has to be a global pricing decision.
Hmm.
Pricing decisions are not country specific. We could have priced it at a lower price point, but we have to be wary that what is the implication of that on neighboring countries, on developed countries, on our transfer pricing model, and so on and so forth.
Right. Kunj Shah from Team Mavericks, IFT Kolkata asks, how does GSK navigate the dual challenge of fostering public trust in their pharma vaccines while also differentiating their products in a competitive market? And what role does strategic communication play in achieving these goals? Very directed questions toward you, Saurav. Want to take it?
No, a very good question, by the way. So, look, I also believe that. See, what's this year? I think 24 will be the year when GSK will have completed 100 years in India.
Yeah.
Now, it's no mean feat. Now, in the world of pharmaceutical products, what does 100 years mean? It only means one thing, which is quality,
Hmm.
right? And today, when you think about brands like Augmentin and Calpol, these every single home knows and understands. When you really look at, and I do believe that that's an opportunity for GSK, possibly really to think about actually, leveraging the brand. The issue is, do consumers, are they habituated in India to look at the packaging of their tablet to even care which is the company that has manufactured it?
Mm.
So the kind of investments it will take to shift that consumer behavior for the industry as a whole is also going to be very, very significant. We have some companies like Mankind and Abbott taking a swing at it, but those are like more sudden events in the time frame versus a sustained effort. But it's something worth considering for sure.
Super.
Not relevant to this project.
Right. I found one question to be very interesting. I wanted to ask you. Anushka Khera from the team 3G Girls is asking, she's from IIM Raipur. How has healthcare consumption patterns changed among individuals, especially HNIs after COVID? So she wants an answer in a way to uh, prep it better in terms of the solution that she wants to put out. Have you done any research, or has your team done any research on this in terms of the consumption patterns in HMIs? Or the people in your building who earn more than you, sir?
Yeah, we have done a lot of dipstick research, right? The We have done fundamental research. Our basic research is you find the typical consumer. We had a random sample of about 1,000 consumers, and we asked them the questions about have they which are the vaccines they have taken, and like I said, about 50% of people, not 50, sorry, 21% of people who we interviewed, they were aware of shingles as a disease. 7% of them were aware that there is a vaccine. And these are all high income people above the age of 50. And 28% said they will talk to a doctor when they wish to, if they get a chance to discuss the vaccine. So, but less than 1% of people have taken the vaccine. So again, like I said, it boils down to the overarching one. Forget HNI, non-HNI. There is the acceptance of adult vaccination as a category, right? Now, how do you build that amongst HNI people? You know, is the solve.
Right. I saw you holding yourself back again, Saurav. I know it's a
Yeah.
little difficult. I will not further push you on that. Vasu, let's come back to you. We were talking about the kind of people that you look for, or the kind of uh, how do I put it? The right word should be acumen, or the kind of character that you show while you are putting your solutions up. Also, it's the kind of person that you come out as is also important while you're looking at it, or you're vetting these kind of PowerPoint presentations that they are sending. Uh, in your opinion, what are some of the qualities that you look for in a candidate that comes through, that makes the cut, and you know for sure that their solutions have merit, but this individual or the group that is doing it has more merit, and we should definitely look forward to what they have sent us? How do you
Yeah,
do that?
yeah. So, see, when it's about identifying the shortlist for a case, it's collectively as a group what they have come up with, sort of what gets them right. But when you look at somebody who, when we hire typically people, right, like the most important skill is basically, um, are they curious? Are they able to learn? Right? Like we usually don't look at people who know everything. Then there is
Yeah.
no learning for them, right? If they know everything what needs to be done, then there is nothing to look forward to here. So people who bring in some relevant knowledge but are also able to learn, able to adapt quickly, able to understand what's happening, and able to sort of pull themselves up if they don't know, ask the right questions, but able to learn and deliver. I think that's the most important differentiating factor, is what do they bring to the table, and are they able to learn? Are they able to apply those learnings? I think this is sort of a major differentiator, sort of, that gets somebody into our space here, or somebody who doesn't make it through. I think that's, I would say, in a very short one, which sort of differentiates.
Great. I have a few more questions that I want to pick from the list of questions that has come in. Kapil Sharma asking, what advice would you give to someone who is considering a career in the pharma industry in the finance domain? We spoke about it, that finance is probably not as big as the other three verticals that you mentioned, but if somebody is interested, how lucrative or big that career option can be.
Yeah, I think finance would also definitely be a very good career. Why? Because see the way pharma industry operates, right? It's basically there is a lot of investment that goes into research for a long time, and then once everything is through, it's about the commercialization of that. So finance also has a very big role to play in terms of how do you sort of guardrail the operational economics of the working of the company. So they have a huge contribution there in terms of uh, uh, you know channelizing the right levers, ensuring that the right decisions are taken. Like Shourov mentioned, it's about pricing. We have certain rules that we follow, certain guidelines that we follow globally. But then when it comes to operationalizing in India, what are the right decisions that have to be taken in terms of cost, in terms of resources, in terms of supply chain. There is a lot of scope there. So finance also is as equally challenging as somebody who's doing a marketing or a sales in a pharma industry.
Absolutely. Just a moment. I just saw that question. I think I lost it. Okay. Um, yeah. How does GSK plan their R&D, as it is an expensive affair and may not give good ROI in a price-sensitive market like India? Is a question that Saurabh Marsing has asked.
Okay. See, R&D typically in a pharma sector is done at a much large scale. The approach or the mindset of the team that does R&D is very different than a commercial organization.
Right.
Commercial organization has a product; they need to sort of take it to the right customers and ensure that the right patients get it right.
Right.
R&D happens more in an explanatory manner where there are certain issues that happen. How do you sort of find the right solution for that? And it takes a long time. There is a lot of trial and error. There is a lot of, if you are working on 10 products, maybe one will see the light of the day and nine may not. And that's how it is. That's how R&D happens, right? Because these are sort of big things, life impacting ones. So that is how the DNA of any company into R&D is. And R&D on any therapy area or any issue happens at a much larger scale, at a much global level, wherein we try to see how big an impact we can make, how many lives can we touch upon. And then
Right.
once all that life cycle is gone through, the second phase is how do you commercialize it? And that sort of happens, it sort of varies from country to country. And in a market like India, it happens in a different way. Like we reach out to the customers who are basically the doctors, spreading awareness to them, making them aware, talking to them, when do we write this product and when do we not. It's not just about pushing the product through, right? Because it has implications. So managing all of that life cycle and then ensuring that the doctor prescribes to the patient when it is required to them, and thereby the patient goes and buys it.
Right.
So these are two different sections, I would say.
Great. Okay. Akshat Muke is asking, how does GSK's commitment to sustainability impact its work in the pharmaceutical industry? It's from XIIM.
Yeah. So, see, sustainability is a very passionate topic for us. We sort of have taken various steps, various measures in terms of ensuring that we all protect the environment that we live in, right? It's not just about the patients, but also where do we operate, how do we operate.
Right.
We have sort of different norms that we follow. Like Shara was mentioning, most of our products that we sell here are manufactured globally in a setup which sort of takes care of all these rules in a country where the regulations are much higher, much stricter than India,
Right.
and following all the norms in terms of safety for the people who work there and also for the environment. And it's just imported here and sort of we sell here. But even at a local level, we do take a lot of efforts. We basically invest a lot in budding doctors who basically are from underprivileged background, who need the right support. We also have a lot of volunteering sessions that our employees do to sort of guide them, coach them on their careers, right? There are various efforts that sort of we as an organization keep it very close to our heart and follow as a practice in our daily walks of life.
Great. Saurav, do we have you on the call by any chance? Saurav dropped off some time back.
Yeah, I dropped off
Yeah.
dropped off and now there is no video. So,
Okay.
but I'm
I
there.
think,
I'm
yeah,
listening
I think
intently.
people can listen to you anyway. I have a question that probably you'll be able to answer. Akshata Agarwal is asking, she's from Team Bonkers and MMS. How do pharma companies price vaccines, medicines to ensure they appeal to HNIs as well as to regular households?
Yeah. So look, again, pricing, is a very, very, is a is even more. So imagine this: you are spending on an average, you are taking about 10 you are that means you are spending on R&D, you are spending on the what you would call all the data on safety studies,
Yeah.
right? All of that, when you take across the span of 12 to 15 years, maybe that is as high, it can run into a couple of $1 billion very easily.
Yeah.
So then you have, after that, you've got a lifetime of maybe 10 or 12 or 15 years at best. Most of the time it's 10 years, for which after which the patent is going to expire. So
Mm.
you have always a limited runway to actually maximize. And look, guys, at the end of the day, look at Pfizer, look at GSK vaccines business. It's all the US and the developed countries is where it is, just Shingrix alone last year did $3 billion of sale,
Right.
right? And which means what? Which is also that only 30% of the US or 35% of the eligible population in the US have still taken Shingrix, or 40%. So there is there's so much headroom there. So I don't think the pricing is, that's what I said. You have to have a global pricing. You cannot have. So one is you have to make money at the end of the day,
Right.
so, but does that mean that all companies, including GSK for sure, do they not have tie-ups with Bill Gates Foundation of giving so many million vaccines a year free for underdeveloped countries in Africa, etc.? We keep doing that, but that's a parallel play.
Correct.
Otherwise you got to take certain hard decisions. And they are not India specific.
Correct. Lovely. Vikas Singh is asking, do GSK target doctors and physicians to spread awareness about rare disease indications? How and why only HRNI group? Again, I think it's a repetitive question, and not doctors and physicians can be our teaching. Is what his question is.
So look again, we are going to our sales team goes to HCPs, goes to doctors. They call on them in their clinics. We do several scientific sessions with doctors where they disseminate the knowledge about the vaccine, about any new launch, about the science, etc. But that is not in scope of this. It could be in scope. I leave it to y'all how y'all think about it. But you could, whether you could reach an HNI through the clinics of an HCP, that's an opportunity. But yes, we work with doctors for sure.
Great. I think we have taken a lot of questions from people who have been part of this session. I think it was a wonderful session for me as well. I got to learn a lot of new things, and people who have probably tuned in to this, trying to learn a little more about the case that they have taken up. People, if you are still thinking what I am talking about, there is a competition. It's called ECube. The link for which is given in the chat box. Go there, check it out, see what is it that you have to do, what is in offer. If you are somebody who knows about it, tell your friends to take part and give the best kind of an idea that you can come up with. This session is again going to be on YouTube, so go back if you have missed certain parts of this session and you want to learn a little more. Before I end this session, I want to have these words from Shourov and Vasu both as to what they think is going to crack you guys, uh, the kind of solutions that they send, the kind of ideas that they send, what is going to make the cut for them, and what is the last piece of advice that you will leave them with? Yeah, starting with you, Vasu, Saurav.
Yeah, so all the very best, guys. So we are as excited as you are to look at the presentations and see the kind of solutions and the suggestion that you will come up with. Just keep one thing in mind. Just look at it from the point of view of a customer who's sort of going to use this or for whom it is relevant. Empathize, get into the shoes, understand what sort of pain points you're going through or what kind of challenges there are, and then try and come up with a solution which will be more realistic and more impactful, that will sort of help solve the problem. I think that's the one line I would want to leave you all with.
Right. And Saurav, if we can have last few words from you about the competition, about the pharma industry in general, and about what they should be doing to impress you, since you are the person who's going to be the producer.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
We can see you also now.
Yeah, okay, great. So look, for me, it's got to be I would love to see something sharp in terms of solution. Something which is speed to market is critical.
Mm,
So the sooner that a solution can be implemented, that will have that bias of speed to market is going to be critical for me, right? So that's the one thing which will differentiate a great idea from a good idea.
great, lovely. And I hope that you guys can work on your respective great ideas. I hope this session was helpful for you guys. Once again, there is a link in the chat box that my team has been putting. Do check that out. Understand first what the case study is asking from you. Read the case study well. If you have questions, put your questions in the video that we have released a couple of days back on the channel. We will try and get those questions solved and answered from people at GSK. Send this again to people who don't know in your campus so that they can also be part of this competition and we can see some of the great results. The last date to apply or register for this competition is 10th September. So get going, guys. Thank you very much, Vasu. Thank you very much, Saurav, for tuning in today. Despite the technical challenges that we had, I think we had a learning filled session and I really enjoyed talking to you guys. And I hope that it was a learning session for all the people who are watching us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you so
Thank
much. All the best, everyone.
you.